Right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start off by just asking that as we're in the room, I don't believe that everybody has been officially muted. So if you could go ahead and make sure that you're muted. And then if you wanted to ask a question during the conversation, please go ahead and put it into the chat area. And we will be watching the chat for questions as they come up. I am so excited about this conversation today. This is the opportunity for us to really dig into the work that's happening at one of our partner boards in the Kansas City area. And so to get started here, my name is Tracy Carey. I'm the Executive Director of Midwest Urban Strategies. And I think we've had a great opportunity to learn more about the opportunities in front of us to empower women in non-traditional occupations and help them get into and make it through apprenticeship programs, as we've been talking with a variety of different players in this space this morning. What we're going to talk about today is how that process works in the Kansas City area. The Workforce Development Board in the Kansas City, Missouri area is called Full Employment Council. And I am delighted today to be joined by Rohina Behrman. I probably just slaughtered your last name, Ro. I apologize for that.
Perfect.
She has been for the last 18 years serving at Full Employment Council as the Director of Employer Development and Special Projects. And her role is really to work with employers and startups from and Fortune 500 companies in a variety of industries to develop and retain key resources and support the workforce needs of the employers in the Kansas City area. The target industries that she focuses on for those activities include healthcare, advanced manufacturing, information technology, finance, and warehouse and logistics. So Ro is bringing the perspective of the Full Employment Council, which is that local workforce board, and their role as really the convener and intermediary that brings together the resources to make the programming possible with her local employer and training partner networks. Along with Rohina today, I have Trisha Pepper. She's the manager of recruitment and employment at John Knox Village in Lee's Summit, Missouri. The village is a life plan community that provides care and services to older adults. And Trisha is responsible for village-wide recruitment and employment activities. During her 13 years at the village, Trisha has been instrumental in establishing multiple programs and services, such as the Nursing Pathways Tuition Assistance Education Program, that's a mouthful, that aids in increasing the satisfaction and retention of associates throughout the organization. Next, joining us is Lynette Wheeler from Truman Medical Center, Lakewood. She's the Chief Operating Officer there, and she's accountable for the day-to-day operations and administration for Lakewood and for the Jackson County Health Department. She has consistently taken a leadership role in driving development of grant-funded training programs for CNAs. These collaborative efforts between educational programs, community organizations, and TMC Lakewood target workforce needs and employment opportunities in core communities in eastern Jackson County, Missouri. And rounding us out is our educational partner here. Scott Boyce has worked in adult education since 1997 and has been with University of Central Missouri since 2004. He directs a program at the university called Workforce Central, which focuses on innovative workforce development strategies, partnerships, and certificate programs in high growth, in-demand occupations that do not require a degree in order to succeed. Now, you might wonder why we convened this particular group of folks, and we're here to talk about why we did that. The work that has been happening through Full Employment Council we refer to that oftentimes as just-in-time training. It's a model or approach to training that looks at the needs currently of employers in a given industry and brings together the resources of the public system, philanthropy, corporate donations, and of the institution itself to address the challenges or barriers to bringing in a pipeline of workers along the career pathway. And so the folks at the Full Employment Council have convened this group of employers and educators to respond to a need in their local area. And I'm going to hand it over to Ro to get us started with sort of a framing of what this initiative looks like.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for those introductions. It's been an amazing conference. We've been listening in all morning. So yes, so our partnership with our partners that are here present today really started because there was a need for developing a really wraparound service for individuals that reside in the counties that we serve in the Kansas City region. So we work with the hospital associations, both Missouri and Kansas. There are intermediaries in the healthcare arena. So what we did is we did a survey and decided that the employers needed to be at the center of anything that we did, and they needed to have a voice in how we developed our training and employment programs. So the individuals that you see that are joining me this morning have done this over many years, and they'll give you their own views on how we've worked. But we've been very fortunate because we do meet regularly, and we develop training and employment strategies and programs that support the needs of not just this employer group, but also within our region of all the healthcare employers. So we streamline a lot of content. We do, when there's a need for a training, for instance, of workforce, if we're lacking it, or if there needs to be consistency in what we deliver and deliver workforce, then we will bring individuals to the table, such as our employer partners, and they dictate the curriculum. So they tell us what needs to be the content of that curriculum. And then individuals like Scott, he comes in and he makes the magic, so then he creates the curriculum and it is delivered, but everybody is in concert with each other. Our team meets regularly. I think we interface every week or every other week based on this whole group meets together on Zoom, or we used to do it in person, but now it's via Zoom to ensure that the individuals coming into the training, most are women in healthcare, so still. We want to make sure that they succeed in not only getting their certifications, but beyond that, once they get on the job, that there is a support system that we put in place as a group that supports them beyond the classroom training, that they go into the clinicals, that they go into apprenticeship. We have our own Department of Labor approved apprenticeship program here. We're the intermediary, and we make sure that everything is kind of prescribed for the individual so that they can succeed long term. But for our employer partners, that provides consistency of training specific to their needs, but it's very customized, as well as it provides retention, safety, other things. So that's how this came to be. We do also have adjunct professors that are hired from the industry by the school that deliver the curriculum, which is a really great model. And we'll come back to discussing some of the other things that we do. So I'll let the others talk. Thank you.
Great. I think it would be really helpful at this point if maybe Lynette, you could kind of frame up from your perspective, and then Trisha from your perspective, why you wanted to work with the Full Employment Council to address the needs that you had identified in terms of the talent pipeline that you knew you needed. And how you formed this. And then we'll circle back to Scott to talk about how we rounded that out with the development of the training program that became a part of that apprenticeship model that you guys have been implementing. So Lynette, let's get started with you.
Thank you, Tracy. We started clear back in 2015. It was a small economic development group out of Independence and Missouri, and we were discussing how can we develop a workforce and what types of work can we implement. And I talked about the need for needing CNAs, and when we were researching it, we discovered that a lot of people wanted to join the group but couldn't afford all the other equipment that goes with it. And there were a lot of issues that we had to address, from travel to babysitting to how to build a resume, how to interview. And Rowena and her team immediately jumped in and started to help us with this, and has been a partner with us ever since. They've been great developing the process we use, supporting you. You not only have to support the student while they're attending their CNA program, there's a lot of socioeconomic issues that you have to deal with while they're in school. And so as a team, we had to address all those issues. And again, Full Employment Council was right there with us, addressing those needs and supporting the success of the group. And we did 5 groups that year, and it spilled into 2016. Then we continued our partnership. And I know we wouldn't be able to do what we do without Full Employment Council. And they're very supportive and helping us identify people who want to be CNAs or CMTs or whatever the case may be. We've used Full Employment Council for other areas like food and nutrition, our environmental services. We've been partners with them. We expanded that with them because they're so good at what they do.
Thanks, Lynette. I appreciate that. I have to remember to unmute myself all the time here. So one of the things that I have been most inspired by as I've learned more about the work that you guys are all engaged in is the focus that you've placed on underrepresented women in this healthcare industry. And so by that, what I mean is that oftentimes, we understand that CNAs are by and large women. But the folks who don't have access to that career pathway are those very low income women who don't have the social and economic supports that they need in order to secure the credentials and take the time to complete the coursework necessary so that they can enter into that profession and then see themselves along a career pathway so that if they want to move up, there is room for them to move into new roles within the industry. One of the things that this team has been able to do is to build out a model that allows for those women who are really a very vulnerable population and very disenfranchised to connect into the resources that they need in order to successfully enter, complete, and get retained in their employment and career pathway in the healthcare industry. And it's these sorts of services that really do transform that experience for that specific population of women who otherwise very much struggle with making it in any sort of industry, including healthcare. So I think that that's one of the things that's been really inspiring to me. And I know that there's a lot of work that went on behind the scenes. And Trisha, I'd like you to talk a little bit about how you guys work together to develop both the supportive services as well as the educational platform, and some of the things that you've learned along the way that were necessary to help really shore up the resources for those women.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Tracy. I very much could probably repeat many of the things that Lynette said and shared along the way. I've had an opportunity to work with Rowena and the Full Employment Council for certainly longer than my 13 years with John Knox Village, and so it's always been a really natural partnership, connection. Really a two-way street. And so we've worked on different initiatives over the years, but very intentionally, probably starting back in about 2014, those of us at John Knox Village began having conversations about the thing that is not a secret, the shortage of CNAs in the healthcare industry. And, what could we do about that? And so internally having those discussions, we then had discussions with some other partners, with some educational partners, and started really just kind of brainstorming about how could we fill that need? How could we grow our own? And so we started a process of creating what is our Pathways programming. And it just naturally kind of dovetailed with some initiatives that Rowena and I were discussing. And so while we were moving along a path internally, I was working with Rowena and with a gentleman, Roy, at the Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship, and we developed the Cna Apprenticeship Model. And that, I believe we launched that in 2015. That was the first one in this area. And we expanded on that eventually with CMT Apprenticeship Model as well. And really, it's a two-way street between us and Full Employment Council. And what I mean by that is, if we have a need, then I can approach Full Employment Council and say, this is what my need is. So in this case, we need CNAs, and so we need to educate CNAs. So how can we accomplish that? And what are those options? Or sometimes they're approaching me and saying, hey, we have this opportunity, or what do you think about this? Or do you have this need? And so there's very much a two-way street there. The Full Employment Council also is wonderful at listening to us about ways to help those individuals that are interested in becoming CNAs or whatever that target position is. With things like, I think Lynette touched on, resume preparation, preparations on how to complete an interview, soft skills, just some of the basics that sometimes we take for granted. And then there's all kinds of other supportive services along the way throughout the training program and after. Sometimes these folks, they need assistance with transportation or childcare, or they need uniforms, things like that. And so there's just a lot of extra support with us working with the Full Employment Council through the process. Oftentimes the Full Employment Council is identifying individuals that are coming in through some of their support services, and they refer them to us. We're both kind of trying to find those people that want to become a CNA and then want to go on. It's worked very well for us in growing our workforce. We typically do about 4 CNA classes a year, sometimes more. We also try to do CMT at least once a year. We have folks that are pursuing their RN. So it's really up to that individual. If they want to be a CNA, that's fine. But if they want to be something beyond a CNA, then there's opportunities there as well. So it's just a really, really great partnership. And it's not just, obviously for us, CNA is a high priority. However, there have been opportunities to provide other types of training. We've done some things with IT and some of the other departments as well. So there's just lots of opportunity, and we're excited to continue that partnership.
Thank you, Trisha. I want to go now to Scott and learn a little bit more about the educational side of the partnership. And we've talked recently about some of the innovative ways that you guys have worked together to bring resources to students to help them continue their education even through COVID. And so if you could talk a little bit about, the way that you have worked with these employers and with the workforce board to develop the training programs that are responsive to the employer's needs and meeting students where they are as well, that would be great.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tracy. Hello, everybody. As was mentioned earlier, the Full Employment Council has really been the hub in this wheel to make these projects happen. I've been working with them since about 2005, and honestly, if they're involved in a project, there's innovation going on somewhere. So I don't know if it's in their DNA or it's in their org structure or what over there, but they're constantly doing something different if the situation calls for it. So we're always excited to be involved in these kinds of projects because of the impact it has at the community level. In this particular project, and as Trisha mentioned, I might touch on some of the things that have already been mentioned, but in this particular project, I wanted to point out several examples of innovation that were either requested by the Full Employment Council or by the employers that are here in this group with us, either Truman Medical Center or John Knox Village. So one of the things is that we did work with the individual employer partners to make sure that the curriculum for our CNA program was on target. There were, for this particular project, we did make some modifications to it. One of the things we did was we added a mental health concentration that is a growing need, at least in the Missouri region, probably in the nation, but I only focus on Missouri, so forgive me. But helping make sure that, custom aspects of the curriculum were included in the certificate program to better make folks coming out of the program employable and promotable. We also did work with the employer partners to help some of their employees become adjunct faculty in our system so that they were able to help with the real world delivery of the skills needed in these programs, primarily on the clinical supervision side. But which is obviously a very, very key component of this program. One of the other things I wanted to point out was that because of COVID, and again, I focus on Missouri, I don't know if this is the way in other parts of the country, but long-term care facilities were no longer able to host clinical experiences for students going through CNA programs. And that was for patient safety, right? We were trying to make sure that nobody required for health and care of the individuals in the facilities were in the facilities, possibly, passing, contagious diseases. So that potentially was a showstopper, right, for CNA programs because clinical experience is an absolute requirement to meet state guidelines, as well as, lifting them up to the point where they can create a safe and healthy environment for the patients they serve. So to kind of help overcome that huge and new barrier, the Full Employment Council and the employers worked a way where they were able to pre-screen and pre-hire individuals before they came into our training program so that they were then qualified after the lecture sections to go into the clinical experience at those home employer sites. And that was a huge game changer. Really an important part of this project because it allowed us to continue developing CNAs as a group, and it also allowed us to make sure that we were jointly paying attention to patient safety in the facilities. One of the other things I wanted to point out was that also because of the COVID changes, we weren't always able to have a group or a cohort of students go to one clinical site. And the employers that are here today both stepped up and helped with clinical supervision and did that in an in-kind fashion when the situation required for it. So very high level of employer involvement to get these projects to remain successful through COVID in areas that as an education institution, we just can't by ourselves, cover. And I think it was also mentioned about the Cna Career Path, right? So we're trying to put individuals as a group, we're trying to put individuals into a career path, right? So they can start off as a certified nursing assistant. They can certainly grow into certified med techs, licensed practical nurses, registered nurses, and beyond, as well as there's lateral moves that they can make as well. But there's a lot of opportunities once somebody gets their foot in the door into this career path. The only other thing I think I would mention is that because of the way the Full Employment Council and the employers innovated in this program, one of the key aspects I think that was different for the students is that they were actually able to earn a paycheck while they were going through the education program because they were part of the employer body prior to coming into the program. So that allows, as was mentioned by Tracy earlier, folks that are in really tough socioeconomic situations that can't afford to take 3 months off to go through a training program because they have, bills to pay and groceries to buy and things like that. The fact that the employers were able to, John Knox Village and Truman Medical Center were able to pay these folks while they were getting the education to come in and join their team, I think was a real game changer as well.
Thank you, Scott. And that's a perfect segue. Ro, I'm really excited to have you talk a bit about the role of Full Employment Council as the sponsor on the apprenticeship program for the project, and how important it is for the folks who are coming into that CNA program to be able to participate in an apprenticeship program, which is essentially an earn while you learn model. And for women, especially low-income women, having the ability to earn a paycheck while they are going through the process of gaining the additional knowledge and credentials and skills is a game changer. That's why apprenticeship is such a great tool for women to advance themselves professionally. So, Ro, could you talk a bit about how the board functions in that role and how it coordinates with the employers to support that apprenticeship program?
Certainly. So, as Trisha mentioned, we initiated our apprenticeship program in 2015. Back then, the only apprenticeship that existed in our region was construction. And so we did a pilot with Trisha's group at John Knox for the CNAs, because that's where attrition was happening massively. There was, people were jumping jobs for a few cents. So we wanted to see how we could make them more stable, but in the long run, our whole focus was on as an intermediary, as a sponsor of the apprenticeship program. We wanted to also work with the Department of Labor to really execute a program in the region that could sustain people, but create career pathways that employers could carry with, for the next year to 6 years of the apprenticeship. So Trish was graciously working with us on the design, and we achieved a really nice program, and it provided retention, and it grew into other industries and sectors beyond that now. So the one factor that was very critical was that we created a pathways, the wage progression that was illustrated, and really for their team to recognize, and I think I heard Trish at another meeting mention that it changed the frame, the thinking of the nursing directors on how an entry-level individual, so I'll let Trish talk about that, but how they bring them in and how they train them, it certainly changed things on the job for that individual, as well as the staff that were training them. So our whole focus was to create a rich program that really encompass more learning on the job, and for us to work as an intermediary to make sure that they're monitored and that the training is implemented. CNAs, we've done a lot of, but we've done it in other industries and sectors too.
Thank you, Ro. So Trish, do you want to speak a bit to how the apprenticeship model has become sort of transformational and helping people to think more about career pathways and helping folks to advance along those lines and create new opportunities?
Certainly. So let me back up a little bit and maybe give some framework for the kind of the entry point into our pathways programming that leads into that apprenticeship model. We decided that we needed to bring folks on and give them an opportunity to kind of shadow and see if they were certain that they knew what they were getting into and all before we just, dove right into putting them into training. And so we actually, post and recruit to fill what we call the Health Services Assistant position or HSA position. And we have a variety of schedules for that. Again, that's helpful for some folks based on, their needs away from the job, at least initially. And so that gives an opportunity for folks to be in that position, anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. It just kind of depends on when they've kind of entered into that pathway. And, it's worked for us because we have had some folks, not many, but we've had some folks who decided after shadowing that wasn't really what they thought it was going to be a CNA. And so they took themselves out of the mix. And so in some cases, we've retained them in other capacities, and in some cases not. But that way they're learning about the work, they're in the work environment, they're earning a good wage during that time. We quickly get them into a class, and so they're paid throughout that entire, training time as well. And then we immediately move them into a CNA position as soon as they've taken the exam, and so it's a pretty quick progression, actually. It's kind of helped with dovetailing what we were trying to accomplish with our Pathways program with the apprenticeship programming, and having that kind of extra mentoring over the course of a year has helped them be more successful. It helps because there's just so much more support there. Starting with me and my recruitment team, our in-house educational folks, the educational folks at UCM, Full Employment Council, they've just got support coming from all angles, really. I'm sometimes referred to as Mama Trish in helping to provide that support and that connection. And so it's really been successful for us. We've had better retention. And of course, what we started with, back in 2015, we've tweaked along the way. We've tried to tighten up some of the timelines that we have folks in, say, that HSA position. It used to be that we wanted to have them in that position for a minimum of 60 days before we would consider putting them into training. And, we've had to scale that back, and it just wasn't working. People were anxious and ready to get going with the training and that progression, because that progression is, it's an accomplishment for them. We hold a graduation. UCM graciously holds a graduation for each one of the classes. And so, that's a huge accomplishment to stand up there and receive that and have family and friends present. And it's more money. So, it's something that's really, really working well for us.
That's great, Trish. Thank you so much. I want to go to Lynette, and I want to hear a little bit from you about how TMC has benefited from this model and from the apprenticeship program. How has that impacted your organization?
Well, as Trisha mentioned, I've been a nurse for 45 years, and I never expected that needing and finding CNAs would be one of the issues I'm working on as the chief operating officer. But finding CNAs to work, we have 188 licensed bed facility at Lakewood. It's a struggle. And so when we started partnering with Full Employment Council, they not only helped us find candidates, but again, as we said, helped the whole dynamic, the whole development of the program. And we couldn't have done it without them to fill all of our positions. They're very flexible. The model does, I think Trish mentioned, they try to do 4 a year. We'll do as many as we can to fill our needs. And as long as we can find candidates, we'll continue to hold classes. And as long as UCM will participate, it's the only way we can survive. So we would not have the ability to provide the care, the quality of care that we want to. I'll brag on both of us, both John Knox Village and Truman Long-Term Care Facility are 5 stars. The CMS every quarter comes out with the grade levels, and both of our programs are 5-star. And you can't do that if you don't have good staffing. And this model has helped provide and stabilize the care and the quality of care that we provide. And I think Trish mentioned it earlier as well. When you grow your own, you get and you teach what you need for your program. And their clinical is done in your environment. So they really learn what you need and your expectations, but we couldn't have done it without them. And without the partnership of both UCM and FEC.
That's fantastic, Lynette. Thank you so much. And Scott, I'm wondering, when we think about the innovative practices that Full Employment Council and this consortium have put in place and used and relied on to drive outcomes, how has that impacted your organization? What do you see as we kind of move forward as a nation, really using apprenticeship in more and more occupations?
I think personally, I think it's very exciting. I think all of us on this call probably know already that not every promising career requires a 4-year degree. My president might want to kick me in the shins if he heard me say that on this call, but I believe it's true, and I think everybody here believes it's true. There are great careers out there that don't currently require a 4-year degree or beyond. So I think as we broaden our mission to serve the community, we're the original teachers college in Missouri. We're 150 years old actually this year. As we continue even after 150 years to try and broaden our community impact, getting into areas like this is very exciting for us. One additional innovation that I didn't mention earlier, and I'm going to give credit where credit's due. I mentioned we've been working with the FEC since 2005. In 2009, Clyde McQueen, who's the CEO of the Full Employment Council, approached us and said, you guys you're doing a pretty good job with these technical certificates, but we really feel like there's an area where you can enhance these programs that'll have dramatic impact. And so what he asked us to do was add what most people call a soft skills component to these certificates. I personally don't like to call them soft skills because I think generally they're very hard to find. But we did hear that need, and we built a program called Core Builders to add to all of our technical certificates. It's in its 4th generation right now. Fortunately, a year before COVID, we started moving it to an online format, so that did not have to stop as a negative side of COVID. We're able to still continue that. But that kind of helps folks coming out of our programs be a little more well-rounded. Obviously, they've got to be very good at their nursing skills, but also being good at things like teamwork and communication, bringing integrity to work, how to deal with human behavior aspects at work, self-leadership, goal setting, things like that really helps an individual be more well-rounded. And a lot of folks don't get that naturally based on their high school education or their home environment or their work environment. So we try and make sure that that's a component that not only makes the candidate more valuable coming out of the program, but really helps the employers that receive these folks have an easier time integrating them into their individual cultures.
I think that's fantastic. It's an important point, and I really like the idea of that core builder as a strategy to help really lift folks up. And I don't think it has anything to do with your level of education. I think soft skills are something that we all can improve on, and so having that built in is another really important point.
Tracy, I couldn't agree more with Scott. We don't call them soft skills. We call them essential skills, because you can't be successful in healthcare without those skills, no matter where you work. And so they're essential skills. And like he said, you're not born with them all the time, and you don't learn some of those skills at home. So it's essential. And that's what puts their program above some others, because they actually take the time to teach those core skills.
Have you guys thought about extending the opportunity to learn those skills to the docs who are serving patients?
We'd be happy to share it anywhere we were asked. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Ro, would you mind kind of rounding out the conversation? What is the benefit to an employer or a training provider in partnering with the public workforce system? And what are some of the best ways to kind of link in and get started?
I think the benefits are pretty evident, as the team is illustrating. We have a lot of resources that we have gone and brought to the area so that we can develop the best workforce that we can. Our whole focus is on not just developing programs that where people are trained and then we pray for employment opportunities. This teamwork, this collaboration that's being illustrated is very, very organic. It's we can all get on a Zoom call, and there's a lot more individuals behind us. We each have teams that come on this call, program managers, HR representatives, hiring managers. We're all on a Zoom meeting, and we make sure that each class is successful. There's a lot of collaboration and negotiating that goes on. Like, we could suggest something, and this team makes it happen. We can say, we need to increase the pay for CNAs to make, and they've made it happen. So there's been a lot of really great things that come because they provide a lot of resources as well for our job seekers, which is to take them and develop them. So it's a give and take, and we have it. So they're using it in a way that that benefits their businesses, as well as the individual is at the center of it. So it's not just about hiring somebody, but actually hiring somebody, developing them and growing them into other careers.
So one of the things that I think is probably the most inspiring to me is that you guys have been at this working together for more than 15 years. That's a long time to stay connected and committed to, solving a problem, right? And this is one of those intractable problems that, you pull on the string and you feel like you're unraveling one part of it, and it just exposes a whole nother side of a problem that you now have to dig into. And so it's not a simple thing to just say, okay, we just need to recruit more CNAs. I think there's been a lot of learning that's happened over this process. Like, well, yeah, you do, but who's going to educate those CNAs, and what credentials do they need? And that whole thing around credentialing and licensing and state to state. So there's a lot that goes into this. And so to stay together for 15 years and stay in the fight and continue to do the work. What keeps you coming back to that table day after day after day? And Trish, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to go up the Brady Bunch chain and just get your responses.
Sure. Well, I mean, I guess, I'm kind of hard-headed. I don't give up easily, just in general. But, I think that I think what keeps me at it and keeps me going, and working with the different partners at the table, is when we have a success. When we sometimes it's difficult, going down that path and going, oh, didn't think about that, gotta tweak this, or COVID certainly had us pivoting. But just keeping at it. And then you get a class of 10 people or whatever that is so excited and proud of that accomplishment, and you're like, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I keep at this. This is why I keep trying to find another way to do this. And then ultimately, for us, I'm always reminding even my recruitment staff, but all associates, that even if we're not at the bedside, what we do impacts the people that we serve. And so, ultimately, it's knowing that we are, as Lynette mentioned, that we are getting to those quality outcomes, that we're providing quality care. We're all about building relationships. And so in the end, it's that keeps me going.
Lynette, you're the next in my Brady Bunch chain.
Well, I am passionate about patient care, and have been, I told you, for 45 years, and I'm not done yet. So it's essential to have the right person in the right position so they're successful, and that we can accomplish quality outcomes for all of our patients and residents. And so it's, I strive to be the best in everything. And that includes the care that we provide. So it's inherent in my nature, and I'm just dedicated to patient care, resident care.
Thanks, Lynette. Ro, how about you?
I think for us, just seeing the evolution of the programs and how this team keeps growing, the minds come together, and we've done this, and that, and then how can we implement something new so that it addresses the needs of that time, but as well as the people. And then we leverage a lot of this from program to program. So it's really helping a lot more people than one program, one class. So seeing that growth over the years and with our partners, it's been amazing, and we're going to continue on with. You can't create things on your own, So when you have great partners like this, that's where the growth and the changes come to be, and it's really addressing the needs in our region.
Scott, you want to go ahead?
Sure, a little tough act to follow, but I think a lot of mine is very similar to Trisha's. I get a lot of reward and joy out of seeing the accomplishments, the pride and the accomplishments that these program participants enjoy at the end. As was mentioned, we try and hold graduation ceremonies for these certificate programs, which is pretty atypical, right? That's usually for a degree. But some of these individuals, many of these individuals, don't have a successful academic accomplishment in their past to be proud of. And so, letting them be proud, bring their family, their spouse, their kids, their mom. At these ceremonies, sometimes we see spontaneous raps, we see people singing, people hugging, crying, all kinds of just really neat human emotions that get expressed because of the pride and the hard work that was put out in these programs. I think that's the primary thing. And you can see I've got a little gray hair now. I'm probably going to need a CNA sometime in the near future. So I'm hoping to personally meet as many CNA graduates in these programs as I can over the next few years, in case I get a chance to meet one of them when I need help or a glass of ice. So, but no, I'm kidding. Primarily, it's seeing the pride in these graduates when they finish, and it's just really hard to explain how it is to witness that.
Yeah, I think that there is a lot in what you guys all shared. It's that real human commitment to improving the lives of other people and helping them to achieve their goals and their dreams. And in partnership, we can have an impact on those individual lives. And then beyond those individual lives, really the system as a whole. As we're getting ready to close out here, I just wanted to open it up and see if anybody has any specific questions. You could go ahead and put your question in the chat and we can ask it. Or if you want to just unmute yourself, we might end up in chaos, but we can give it a shot. I just wanted to see if there were any questions that anybody had for our panelists today. And it may be an indication of what a fantastic job you guys have done in covering all of the salient points here. So as we're waiting, if anybody comes in with a question, we will jump to it for sure. Any closing remarks that you'd like to make, Ro, to encourage people to continue on in this work?
I just think that, first of all, I want to thank you and MUS for this opportunity for showcasing our team. We're certainly very proud of this partnership, and we will continue doing what we need to do to make more things happen. And thank you, Tracy.
Thank you for all the work you guys are doing, Ro. I really appreciate it. We will be preparing here to transition to the networking room. There is a post in the chat that you can link on to go into the networking room. And in there, we'll have the opportunity to talk to some of the other people who were presenting in the other room, as well as some of the presenters from the first session. So we hope to see you all there. And I want to thank you for joining us and learning more about the fantastic work that's happening in Kansas City. Thank you all, and we'll see you over in the networking room. Oh, just want to let you guys know, it says it's going to begin in 10 minutes. And so if it says meeting in progress, please wait, and it will begin as soon as the breakout closes. So there we go. I thought we were at close at 12:30, but hang out, wait to get in. We'll see you there. Thanks. Bye.